There's no going
So you
back.
can do what you wanna do. You can do what you wanna do.
Well, happy day 21 of 365. If you're stuck with us for the full 21 days, then congratulations. I feel as if we've reached a bit of a milestone. I know it's only 3 weeks, we've got a long way to go, but 3 weeks! 3 weeks is a habit. So from today onwards, this is a habit. So thank you so much for sticking with me for 21 days. I want to send a huge shout out to Michelle Scott Brzezinski, who's been sharing some of her pictures on our timeline, which is awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. It's great to see that you've had the courage to do that. I think your drawings are beautiful. But those of you that might not have the courage to add your drawings to the timeline, please let me encourage you not to worry about how good or bad you think they are. For two reasons. Number one, I believe there's no such thing as bad art. There's good art and there's better art, but there's no bad art. And number two, 9 times out of 10, they're not as bad as what you might think they are, because naturally us as artists tend to be very self-deprecating when it comes to our work. We're our worst critics. So no, we're not going to criticize you as much as what you may be criticizing yourself. I promise I won't say anything negative to anybody that adds artwork to the timeline. I might constructively criticize, but I will never insult. So please add your drawings. It'll be great to see what everybody's doing and how these lessons are helping people. I also want to apologize for the crazy hairdo today. I'm at the moment in between hairdos. I'm trying to grow this silly hair. It was very short at one point. I'm also trying not to color it. So yeah, I know it looks crazy, so forgive me. Okay, what I want to talk to you about today on a serious note is I've been spending a lot of time now over the last couple of days thinking about how to proceed. Now that we've reached 21 days, we've covered sort of bits and pieces here and there. I know that we're going to have to go back to basics. It's been worrying me a little bit because I also know that there's a lot of people on the other side of this camera who are way beyond the basics, or sort of more intermediate and even advanced artists. And I know that there's also a bunch that are much more basic artists, just starting out young, haven't necessarily studied it very much. I also think that a lot of the basics of art comes to us quite naturally. I think instinctively we know these things, even if we've never actually been taught them, but we still need to put them into words. So anyway, I've been thinking about whether or not I should do this because I don't want to alienate any part of the audience. But I think if the advanced audience will just be patient with us for a week or two while we go through the basics of art, if you wouldn't mind, because I think the younger, more inexperienced artists really need to start from a good foundation, because even though they may know it instinctively, it's really, really good to put these things in perspective and go through them and the potential that they have to improve your art. So if you're an advanced artist watching this, please, I pray if you will just bear with us for a couple of days while we go through the basics. I'm going to go through all the elements of art and the principles of art, and then all the compositional coming together of all those things. So it'll take us a few days to get through it all. Today we're going to start with a very basic one, which is line work. But before I get into line work, I'll go through a whole schedule, exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to put the camera up onto the ceiling and look down onto a piece of paper so that I can actually do some sketching for you, and I will see you in a minute. Elements. Now if you look at the elements, you can consider them ingredients. If you were baking a cake, for example, these will be the ingredients that you would use to bake your cake, or in this case to produce a piece of art. Now the elements include line, shape, color, value, and for those Americans, color is spelled correctly in this country. My spelling is bad, but it's not that bad. Okay, so we've got line, shape, color, value, form, texture, and space. Those are the 7 major elements. Now, things like shape and form, we could maybe do in one, because they're linked, so we could do that in one lesson, for example. From elements, various combinations of those come together to form your principles. Of the principles, there are 7 major principles. We can go as high as 10. I'm going to do the same thing and combine some of them. Otherwise, you know, we can have lots and lots of little lessons, and it's better to talk about some of them together. One of your principles is balance. You've got contrast. You've got emphasis, movement. We've got pattern. We've got rhythm, unity, scale, variety, and focal point. Now here again, things like emphasis and focal points that we can combine into one lesson. Movement and rhythm we can combine into one lesson, things like that. Okay, so various combinations of these make up the principles. The combinations of the principles make up composition. Now this is when you're actually putting a piece of artwork together. And the various forms of composition we will talk about: framing, leading lines, merging elements, negative spaces, the rule of thirds. That's a nice interesting one, and I'm sure you'll know all about that. Scaling, the sentinel, types of compositions, and the golden mean. Now again, we can work with some of these together, like thirds and the golden mean can go together. Types of elements and sentinel can go together. We'll have a look and see as we go along. So this is going to be our syllabus for the next few weeks, and I'm not sure how many videos it will make up, but we'll take it as it comes. And when we're having conversations around these things, we're going to also bring in perspective. We're going to talk about 1, 2, and 3 point perspective, linear, atmospheric, and foreshortening. Okay, so it looks like a heck of a lot when you write it all out like this, but really it isn't all that much. But the nice thing about going through all of this is this encompasses, like I said to you, these are the ingredients, these are your raw materials, and this is your finished product. So combinations of elements become principles, combinations of principles become composition, and perspective is actually none of these. It's part of all of these, but I think we need to talk about perspective on its own, because it can kind of mess with the brain for some people. So we'll concentrate on that one in a separate lesson. Line. Now line is a really quick and easy one. Line forms the basis of every shape that you're going to be producing. Now you can do various different line qualities. What we're talking about here is the quality of the line that you're going to be producing. Okay, you can draw a direct line, you can draw a line of varying thicknesses, or you can draw a scratchy line. Okay, so now if you were drawing, let's just take a leaf for example. You're drawing a leaf. You can draw, I'm working with a charcoal pencil here, so it's actually really thick. You can draw a line, a linear leaf just with straight, unwavering lines, or you can draw with various pressures. So you press and go light, press and go light. You can press and go light, and with that you can suggest movement and light source, etc. Or you can do scratchy lines. So let's say, and the nice thing about scratchy lines is that you can adjust as you're going along, and it really just makes for a nice textured Now, I say this is a really basic one because it really is. I mean, that's all it is. Line, it's just talking about the different types of line. Now, of course, as many different artists as there is what you can find, so you will find different types of line. Every artist has their own way of doing line. But the point to this exercise is to show that line work can create quite a lot of its own accord. If you have a look at those 3 different leaves, there's 3 completely different concepts or 3 completely different emotional points of view that you're putting across. This is really direct, this one gives quite a lot of movement, and this one gives quite a lot of emotional content. So you can use line to suggest light source, you can use line to suggest emotional content, or you can use line for simple documentation, which would be this unwavering line here. So line quality is actually really important, and it's a good idea to spend some time practicing line, coming up with your own way of doing things in terms of the line that you like to use. And you'll also find that when you're working with line on a preparation of a drawing as opposed to using line to actually do a drawing, it might be 2 different qualities of line work, and that's also alright. You know, if you're working with line in preparation, you're going to do a very light, sketchy line. If you for example, if you're gridding up a drawing, you're going to do a light sketchy line because that's just going to be your plotting out of your drawing before you start actually doing the drawing. And when you start doing the drawing, you're going to be more conscious about the line work that you're producing. And there are some beautiful drawings out there that contain nothing but line. So line work can be a very valuable one of the elements of art. I think in a lot of cases one of the most underrated. I think we tend to spend a lot of time talking about shapes and color and value and texture and all the other elements, and not enough time talking about line. And maybe it's because it's such a very simple one and so easy to understand. So that was our first lesson on the elements and principles of art. We covered all the different types of lines, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something from it. If you did, please like it. Even if you didn't, please like and share, because you will have friends who have friends who have friends who could learn something from it. So please like and share and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.
That's
Bye.
what you want to do.